Think it's time we rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do.
Hi, everybody. It's Andy Kennedy here. A little bit of a different format on the Up and Up today. Yes, this is the Up and Up, and no, I'm not Jody Newell. But as some of you may or may not know, our Miss Newell had run locally, politically in the Keene, New Hampshire area where she's from. And that election just happened. And so this show is a means to allow Jody to share her experience and walk through what she's done. I think we'll also be talking to her about what she might have done differently now that she's gone through that process. But that doesn't get started until I introduce my guest, who, strangely enough, is the one and only Jodi Newell. Hello, Jody. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Andy?
What I want to do is, I think when we've gone through the last two election cycles in the United States, there's been a theme of the progressive left where they're saying, you know, go out and run. If you want to make change, then you should go out and run for something and try to help affect change yourself. And I think that it sounds a lot easier than it is. I think that's the perception. And so what I think I want to do is that if we could maybe start at the beginning, Jody, and we'll kind of do a deep dive and maybe try to demystify some of the issues and the fear that people might have of running and putting themselves out there as a candidate. So I guess the first question I wanted to ask you is there a point that you can look back at as the point that you decide that you weren't going to run for some point in office?
Well, I guess over the years I've thought about it. I mean, obviously, you know that I've been active politically and going at it from that angle, right, on the outside, trying to advocate to people who are on the inside. And but I think so. Obviously, when you're thinking about how you can most effectively make change or contribute positively. Of course, you're going to think about, should I run? You know what I mean? Something like that, especially, going to a lot of different conferences and things like that are about politics. And so that kind of, she should run, that gets out there and it gets in your mind and you start thinking, well, at least for me, I think it was at the Unrig the System Summit a couple of years ago. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe in my 5-year plan, like maybe when I have my shit together, because someday, apparently you're going to think that you have your shit together. I don't know if that's news to you, but yeah, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that, yeah, I think that it's easy to think in those terms that there's going to be a better time. Mm-hmm. Right. And you can always, you could procrastinate your way through life with that thinking. One thing I do want to ask you is, so what was officially the office you were running for?
Yeah, I was running for an at-large counselor on the city council in Keene.
Okay. And there are, how many people get elected for that position and how many people were running?
Yeah, let me tell you. So the way that the city council breaks down is there are 5 wards in Keene. So there are 2 counselors for each ward. Each ward counselor has a 4-year term, but they're staggered. So every 2 years someone is running, but it's not the same, not 2 people from the same ward. And then for the at-large seats, so that's 10, right? And then there are 5 at-large seats that cover the whole city, that anyone in the city can vote for. They're not just for one specific ward, right? So there were 4 incumbents who were running again, and well-liked incumbents, people who there's no reason to think that that they wouldn't be reelected. You just assume. But there was one incumbent who stepped down, and so there was one seat that was open. That was the seat that I was running for.
I see. And how many people were you running against?
So 8 people entered the race. Normally, it's just kind of interesting. Apparently, usually it's more like 14, 15 people who will enter the race, and then the primary whittles it down to 10. So essentially 2 for each seat. But this time only 8 people entered in the beginning, so there were 8 of us running for 5 seats.
I see. And so just before we get there, what was the result?
So I did not win. Interestingly enough, so the person who I was running against had been a ward counselor, but he moved out of that ward. So just within the last couple of years, he was a Keene City councilor, but he just happened to move out of that ward, so he had to step down. So he was well known and well liked in the town. So I actually got 1,343 votes, which was 36 votes less than the guy who had been a city councilor and had to step down, was well known and well liked in the town. So I lost, but it was still that was a really big accomplishment.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That close.
36
Oh
votes. Hey,
no.
listen, if anybody tells you your vote doesn't matter, I'm here to tell you it does. Okay.
I'm telling you, there's 36 assholes out there that
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. No,
especially in local elections. That's why, you can really make such a big difference in local elections.
right. And so when you decided that you were going to run, what's the process for going in? You have to go and file officially.
Yep.
Do you need a bunch of signatures to do that?
So the way New Hampshire goes about it, or at least Keene, the way Keene goes about it, is you either get 50 signatures or you pay $2. So nobody gets the 50 signatures. Everybody just pays the $2. For the mayor, it's 5. I don't know. It might be worth it to him to go and get a bunch of signatures, but no, for the councilors,
hey, that's a happy meal.
Why spend my energy on that when I could start it on the campaign?
Wow, big bucks.
New Hampshire's an interesting place, though. I'm sure it's not the same in a lot of other states around the country.
No, I would imagine not. It's certainly not anything that I've heard of in any of the races that I've heard of. Okay, so let's get into the process of campaigning now. So did you end up like quote unquote hiring a staff, or is this basically just you going out and knocking on doors?
I was really lucky because I didn't have the money to hire a staff or anything like that. But I had a good friend who was out of work, who, had the time and had technical skills as well, which was huge for me. And so he became my volunteer campaign manager, and I can't even explain how helpful he was. Plus, I had a lot of local supporters and volunteers, and also organizations that endorse me. That are organizations that, if people watch the Up and Up at some point, you've probably seen me talk about, or have people from Rights and Democracy New Hampshire on. That's because I'm on their leadership team. So of course, they had my back and things like that. So volunteers and and my good friend doing a lot of the work, and of course, as a candidate, you're going to work hard too.
Well, you better, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you just power through it. But.
So how much of your campaigning was doing live appearances or rallies, or just basically walking the streets, going door to door?
So I guess pretty even mix with my campaign. So Keene is a fairly small place, right? It's, as far as the cities go, as far as cities go, there's, it's less than 20,000 people. So it's not a whole lot of people. And, 17% of the public came out to vote. And that's kind of a lot for that's a good turnout for a local election. So
Right.
To reach people, honestly, the best way that I really wanted to go about that was going door to door. The more I could talk to people, the better. So I did have some meetings with other counselors and tried to kind of get support in that way. We had a nice event, that was a campaign launch event with another candidate who was running for one of the wards, and just didn't know a lot of people. So I thought, hey, neither do I. We had a nice little launch event, and then. Yeah, really just going door to door. That was the big thing. And that was
Right. Well,
also,
that's cool.
the statewide organizations that endorse me helped me to kind of get everything together and really make it efficient, and kind of do it in a way that that was really beneficial.
Were the conversations more about what you would be doing within the within the Keene area, or did they go a little more on the national level in terms of policy and the administration currently and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think Keene especially. I mean, I think people understand with New Hampshire about how people take politics really seriously, right? Because we're the first in the nation primary, and so people have a different kind of perspective of it. It's something that they really, take seriously in a way.
Sure.
And so, but and so there that does kind of carry over a little bit onto the local level. But here's the thing about the local politics is one thing that Keene really prides itself on, is having a nonpartisan local election. So when I went in to file my paperwork, for example, there was no D or R. There's no party affiliation. You're not, that's because it's not supposed to be. These partisan things are not supposed to be the things that you deal with on a local level, right? So, I can see kind of an ideological, perspective, and people bring different perspectives to the table, but it's really not drawn along party lines in New Hampshire. So a lot of the conversations that I had essentially were about the council itself. I did get a lot of feedback on people really feeling like disconnected from the council, or that the council wasn't necessarily making progress on, or wasn't interested in having conversations about things that were applicable to them, right? So to me, what of course that indicated that there needs to be more participation and outreach to the community and things like that, because it seems like people must not quite understand how to get their issues there, or feel comfortable doing that, or feel like they care. And then also, with the specific issues that I was bringing to the table, substance use disorder, and specifically, people were like, do you really think they don't want to do anything about that? Now, I met with a lot of people on the council, and I do think that a lot of people on the council would want to deal with that. But, and so essentially what I said was, I've spoken with people, and I do think that people are concerned and willing to, have this conversation and make good decisions, good and well-informed decisions. But don't you think that it would be helpful to have somebody who's, that's their major concern, major priority, to be there? Don't you think that would make it more likely that they would do that thing, and, and of course, got a lot of really good positive feedback from people. But I think that was kind of the main thing. Most people just warm and kind, and, just took the information, said, that's great, I'll look into it, honey, Just, yeah.
You mean it wasn't like a Twitter dispute, like a Twitter
God,
argument?
no.
Right? You're stupid. No, you're stupid. No, you're stupid. Yeah.
No, thankfully people were really nice and really receptive. I mean, the 85% of the people, doors that I knocked on, people just weren't home. You know what I mean? So let's be real.
Right.
So it's kind of a sampling of the people who happen to be home at that time and who are kind enough to answer the door, and so.
Right. So that, well, you know what, I think that's positive. If you had to do it again, based on the results that you got, would you change any of the way that you campaigned?
I think it took me a little while to get started with the canvassing, and I think I would have liked to do that a little bit sooner, really gotten the ball rolling, because I think that's the major way, at least for me, to reach out. Now, I did, I sent out a mailing, a reminder to vote and stuff like that, and I had other people helping. So I'm not, some who New Hampshire Youth Movement, for example. They endorsed me, and I know that they were doing
Awesome.
something for me, but I can't coordinate with them as the campaign candidate. I can't coordinate, so I have no idea really a lot of other things that happen behind the scenes. But I do think the major things were, the door hangers, getting that out to people, and
Right.
also, the mailing. I think that was how most people ended up hearing about me.
Right. Right. Well, it sounds to me like you had, considering this is your first time running for really anything, right? And that a lot of success hinges on name recognition, and we've seen that a number of times. It seems to me that you were quite successful in what you were doing, right?
Yeah,
I
I
would.
mean, people didn't know me. I know people within my activist circle, and now I know people within my local politics circle, and maybe a couple little bubbles from school moms and stuff like that. But I don't know a whole lot of people, enough that and there are people who are who run every time. If I ever told you about the free staters here and stuff like that, libertarians and things like that, that
Sure.
people know and see their name every time. They know their name, but they're not taken seriously because they're seen as they're libertarians, and people clearly don't agree. So anyway, so they're not taken seriously. So the challenge was to not only have people recognize my name, because people will recognize the name either way, but
Sure.
also for people to take it seriously as a serious candidate. And so I shouldn't also forget to mention that around here the big thing is the candidate questionnaire that goes out in the Keene Sentinel, to all the candidates, and you answer the same questions. They elicit the questions from the people in the community, and pick the top three. Everybody answers the same question, the same three questions, and gives a little biographical information, things like that. So that's another way that people get to know you, and they can, compare and contrast your answers with the other candidates in a direct comparison. You each have 200 words for your answer, and you answering the same question, and
Right.
so it helps to kind of differentiate people and really give people an impression of what your perspective is, and I think how you're going to view these decisions. We're all going to be looking at the same information, but the point is to have a good have a make a well-informed decision, right? And so to
Sure.
make a well-informed decision, you have to have a variety of perspectives, because classic story of the elephant, right? The blind man and the elephant, and a different description from each person. But together, all of those descriptions make, a well-informed whole. So anyway.
And we find more and more that these campaigns aren't about policy positions or how to improve the lives of people. They're more performative in nature, and so the even you know debates end up being just popularity contests,
Mhm.
right? So I like the idea that the Sentinel, it's the Sentinel, right?
Yep.
That they would have at least allow the people to put it out there. So how do you stand on this particular policy? Well,
Yeah.
then you can judge, right? Because our one of our critiques, especially on the left of mainstream media, is as they don't go there because their their policy positions are shit, right? So I think that's a great idea, and that gives you a chance to express yourself in a place where people are going to actually see it. So
Mhm.
I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Now, based on your experience, do you think that you will run again?
Probably. I think I will. Depends for what. We'll see.
Right.
The nice thing is, I think not only, was I able to convey legitimacy to the people, who went out and voted, but also I think the fact that I did so well conveyed, conveyed to the people who are in the council now that, hey, maybe this person, maybe people think that this is a good person to be a part of things. So, um, you know, um, so I've been approached about, joining some of the standing committees and things like this. And so there are going to be other opportunities for me to be involved, in the conversation and in a different capacity. So That's cool.
Sure. Well, we'll
And
just
that's
have to wait and see, right?
right. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I mean, tonight I'm actually going to a city council meeting. They're going to be talking about specifically things with substance use disorder and things with opiate settlements, which huge part of what I've been talking about. So so I'm going to go tonight, and I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to speak, but still be there to be a part of the discussion if that's appropriate at any time. It's just, it's a lot to keep up with everything that's happening in the city. And I think at some level you do need to be connected to a certain degree, whether it's officially being a member on one of the standing committees or something like that, to really kind of get the inside scoop and know what's going on moment to moment,
Sure, absolutely. Are you going to tonight's meeting and you sit at the back with like a big scowl?
No, I'm gonna go.
I didn't win.
Actually, right after the results came in, we myself and a few of my friends and local, activists and volunteers and stuff like that, went and met at this one brewery, and we got the invite. Hey, why don't you come over to? Because we were all standing out together all day. I was standing out with the mayor's mom and his godmother and my ward counselor's mom for the day, also alternating my children, at different times. So we were all together, and the other counselors showing, and stuff like that. So we were all together throughout the day. So they invited me afterwards. They were having kind of an after election party with all of the counselors and candidates. And so even at, this was after I got the results and knew what had happened, and, went over and met the mayor. I had never actually met him, face to face. So met the mayor and a few other people, and everybody, I think people understand, if they didn't before, that I do really want to be involved. I do really care about Keene. And so I think,
Right.
people are saying, all right, what can we do? Because clearly if you want to help, we need, you know what I mean? Like, let's do it.
Sure. Now at this gathering, because these were all politicians, were you drinking scotch?
No, but listen, you don't want to see my Scotch face. You don't want to.
Okay.
I try. It's not good, and it's just unavoidable. No, Scotch is not the thing.
Oh,
no, I had an IPA, as a matter of fact.
one thing about this pandemic and keeping the border between the U.S. and Canada closed, I think you're on my short list of people that I'm going to the States to visit once.
Nice.
And hopefully I'll get to see your Scotch face up close and personal. So.
Okay.
But so I think that the whole process that you went through was definitely a lot of work, but would you recommend it to people? Do you need to be a certain type of person to run? What's your best advice for people considering?
So I think it was an interesting process, even getting to the point where I decided that I was going to run. Because like I said, I always said like, oh yeah, when I have my shit together, like that's ever going to happen, right?
Right.
And I think it took kind of going through, I had some personal stuff happen and whatever, and came out the other end just like a bat out, bat out of hell. Is that what it's called? I don't know, one of those things. But I just wanted to get going, do something, and I was feeling really, really good. And how everything had shaken up. I had stepped down from Wolfpack, and so I had a whole lot of extra time. It's pretty much a full-time job there, volunteer. Right. So I had a whole lot of extra time to kind of devote to other things, and this came up at that time, and and so it all worked out. But I guess looking back at it now, because it was a lot of work and it is disappointing, in the end. I do feel really, really good about it. I have a lot of people checking in on me because they're awesome and they just want to make sure I'm doing all right, because it is really disappointing. And so, but the thing is, I feel pretty good. I'm taking a little bit of, time to myself to just kind of process and, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, like, I feel really proud that I got just shy 36 points. I would have loved to have another 37 votes, but at the same time, I feel pretty good about, how it all shook out and what I did. And so I guess what my advice would be is you don't have to have your shit together. Number one.
Exhibit A.
Yes, exactly. And then also number two is don't be tied to the outcome. You know what I mean? And of course, we all have that competitive and we want to, but understand that you give it your all, because I think that's what I thought for the, anytime I'd feel like, oh, I don't really want to do it, or something like, whatever. I think the only thing I'm going to be disappointed with is if I don't give it my all. And so I don't care whether I win or lose, but I'm going to give it my all. And so that's what I did. And I think at the end of the day, I did all right. And I feel good about how I did. And it's opened up other opportunities for me to be able to help in other ways. So that wasn't necessarily the exact thing that I wanted to happen, but I think I can still be useful. And this gave me kind of a springboard in order to be more useful. So.
Well, and I think that it's important. I think that that's very important that, we live in a political environment right now where, at least on maybe the state or the national level, where it's not my party, therefore I'm not going to help them do anything. Right. But we've lost that sense of community. A lot of stuff, right? That instead of, okay, we lost the election, it's now our job to help steer policy, right? We can help the government when we agree with them, or we can oppose them when we disagree with them on the national level, right down to the local level, right? Yeah. The fact that you're going to a council meeting tonight, right? You're not going to rest on your laurels or be Mrs. Grumpy Pants. I didn't win, I'm not doing anything, right? You're going to be going to the council and saying, okay, look, you people that are now the council, or this person that beat you, okay, well, I'm still here, I'm still involved. What can I do so that we can move forward to help people in our community, right? And then if that pays back to you, if you decide to run again and you win, right? That the people that are in that environment can help you determine where policy should go. And we've lost that sense as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. And from what I understand it, and I know we've talked that I've known you for a little bit now, Jody, I think you should be completely proud of yourself and what you did, stepping up there and doing what you did, and the success. You did have a successful outcome. You didn't win, but you came so close on a first ballot. That's amazing. And congratulations on a well-fought battle, and good luck to you in the future. And the bright side for RP is, now we get you back for a little bit.
That's right. I should be saying, if anybody, I haven't been paying attention to much outside of my circle, so I'm looking for interviewees. Tell me what's happening in the progressive world.
That's right. We get back on that horse, right?
Yeah.
So, well, listen, I really want to appreciate you allowing to be part of this and step into your shoes to do the interviewing. A great conversation. Hopefully let's schedule something, in the future, and we'll talk a little bit more. I would be remiss if I didn't let you do the outro for this, because, I always like to hear you say backsplash.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, but you should have known that was coming.
I know. Well, I mean, as long as we keep on good terms, you won't share my outtakes reel back. No. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe, of course. And if you have, so you didn't know where the mess up was going to be this time. You on your toes, Andy. And if you do have the means, we are grassroots funded. If you can support us, Patreon / Real Progressives.
Right. We're on a whole bunch of new places now as well. We've got our Rockfin channel, which has been up for a while. We're now on Twitch as well. And we're just everywhere the place, right? Anywhere they'll let us talk, which, isn't, the evil word algorithm. We won't talk about that too much, but thank you so much, Jody. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy.